We always ask this, Tyler. What did you like most about Bourgault, and um, were you surprised, as usual, that he was still there? Is that why you traded back?
Um, we had a cluster of guys. We didn't want to move too far, obviously. Um, we had some guys go right before us that we had targeted. Fortunately, they didn't get to us, and so we made the decision go to back. We didn't have a second, didn't have a third, so we got a third. We went down 2 picks, and we got our guy.
And what do you like most about him?
Well, he's a high-skilled offensive player. He can play center, he can play the wing. He's got good size, he's got excellent vision, excellent skill. He's a student of the game. He's very competitive. He's a very mature young man that understands. He's got his priorities in order as far as off-ice training and all that stuff. He was very impressive to talk to. He was a guy that we targeted, and we're excited to get him.
Daniel Nugent-Bowman, The Athletic.
Hi, Tyler. You said it. Xavier said it just a few minutes ago in his interview, just in regards to playing center in the wing. Where do you think you feel most comfortable, or where do you think he projects for you guys when he gets to the NHL, or if he gets there?
Well, obviously, we're projecting him to be a top 6 forward. We want to add to the mix that we've got, and obviously he's got some developing to do, and we've got to give him those resources to do that. But he's got excellent vision. He's got skill. He can play with elite players, and that was very attractive for us.
At 20th, there was a pretty good goaltender there available in Jesper Wallstedt, and obviously, maybe a need for the organization. I don't know if you'd say that, but what went into the decision to ultimately move down and pass on a good goaltender like Wallstedt?
Like I said, we had a cluster of guys, and we had a couple of guys that went before us. And that was the decision we made. We don't have a second, don't have a third. We were able to get a third and get back into the game a little bit earlier tomorrow, and worked out for us.
Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
So, Tyler, fair to say, and I ask this as a guy that doesn't watch amateur players very often, so take it for what it's worth. Fair to say that the Oilers just really weren't that interested in drafting a goalie with their first round pick, no matter what his name was. Is that fair?
No.
You would have drafted a goalie with your first round pick, but you chose not to draft this one. Like, how do we characterize that? People back here are kind of just wondering why you pass on Wallstedt. Not critical, just trying to figure out why, that's all.
Because we decided to take a highly skilled forward. That was the decision that we made at the time. We work at this all year long, and we do our due diligence, and we put guys in order, and were we opposed to taking a goalie in the first round? No, absolutely not. We weren't. But we took a highly skilled forward that we think that we're going to add to a group of players coming in that's going to be pretty exciting for us.
Thank you.
Ryan Rishaug, TSN.
Hey, Tyler. Normally, through the course of a year, you compile a certain amount of data about players, and you probably sit there after the draft, with a certain feeling of confidence about what you have. Is it any different this time around, just given how different the information gathering was? And how do you think you'll feel about this year's group, just given, the difference in that data? How do you feel sitting there about, your knowledge base on the guy you picked in that really important spot?
Well, to say it was a challenging year, it's an understatement for sure. But all 32 teams, for the industry in itself, it was hard. The Ontario League doesn't play. Some of the kids went over and played in lesser leagues in Europe. A handful of kids got the opportunity to play at the Under-18 World Championships. You're doing a lot of evaluating on previous viewings as underages. You know, the limited of travel to go overseas. So to say that, you know, for anybody to say that they thoroughly know this draft, I think it's pretty impossible, to be honest. But you know, we worked hard. We had calls. We had constant communication. We did some traveling. You know, through a pandemic, and you know, the Quebec League was rolling and had periodically stops. You know, through the course of the pandemic, but you know, we were able to get in there, and you know, we liked what we seen. We watched this guy. You know, he's a late birthday, so he's been in the league for 2 years in the Quebec League. So we've watched him for a couple of years, you know, before this year. So I mean, we were happy, obviously, and that's why we took him at 22.
Thanks, Tyler.
Jim Matheson, Post Media.
I've seen some scouting things, Tyler, that says he's got some of William Nylander in him. Is that so?
You know, I don't like to publicly say who he kind of is. I mean, he's a unique player. I think he plays with a lot of purpose on the ice at all times. He's very patient with the puck. He's very smart. He makes players around him better. He's highly skilled. He can finish. He can score. He can set up. I mean, he can play the center. He can play the wing. So, you know, I don't like to compare and put a label on a young man. I think that, I mean, he has a chance to be a top six forward in the organization, and obviously that's why we target him.
Okay, I'll change gears then. The Oilers once took Ales Hemsky from the Quebec League, also a right winger. Is there any of this kid in Ales Hemsky?
I didn't scout Ales Hemsky. I played against him, but I mean, I don't know. You mean I don't know? You mean at the same age, Jim? I didn't see him play junior hockey at that time. You know, I mean, I saw him play as an NHL player. I mean, he's a highly skilled player. That's all I can say.
Daniel Nugent-Bowman.
Tyler, I'm just curious, do you feel like in this draft that having more picks or getting a pick later in the draft has more value just because of the uncertainty and, you know, there could be so much variance in lists from teams, even more so than other years because of the way that the season played out?
Well, I think there's going to be great value in this draft for sure. I mean, obviously this is one that's going to be studied, you know, with the microscope, you know, going back 3 or 4 years from now when everything kind of comes to fruition. So, you know, we went back 2 spots, and, you know, we got a guy that we were going to take there probably at 19 and get back in the game with the 3rd round. So, you know, we moved back last year, you know, so to gain some extra picks, and we liked, you know, the picks that we got last year. So we're, you know, we debated it. We just kind of thought that it was worth the gamble and, you know, get us back in the game earlier tomorrow.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Final question, Reiner Shog, TSN.
Thanks, Sean. Tyler, I think sitting at the table most years, you know, part of working the draft is kind of figuring out what other teams are going to do, who they might be taking, what it looks like. Was this year any different in terms of the amount of information you think teams actually had on one another? Was there any less of a handle on which way things were going just because of how bizarre this year was, or did this feel fairly standard from where you sat?
No, I don't think it was fairly standard. You know, we're all in the same boat, you know, right? We're all trying to figure out what we're trying to do. There was probably more banter, I would say, that was kind of going around that, you know, you had to decipher through whether it was right or whether it was wrong. And at the end of the day, you know, you're speculating. So, you know, you work all year to get your list, you work off your list, and, you know, you're really at the mercy of, you know, the picks that go ahead of you and in front of you. So no, it wasn't normal by any means, but the last 19 months haven't been normal. So kind of fit the bill.
Thanks.